If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free, and you guessed it, it's free. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. It's everything you need to make a podcast in just one place. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Pieces of a Nation. Yo.
Take two.
How you doing, man?
What is up, man? I'm doing fantastic, man. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Sorry for the delay. We were coming back from the DMV and had some errands to run. So
No worries, man. No worries. You're here. I'm glad you guys are good, okay, ready to go, man. You look good. It's been
Thanks,
a while.
man. Yeah, it's been a minute.
Yeah, it's been a long while, man. So how's everything going, man? Like with everything else?
Yeah, it's okay. This pandemic situation, I feel, has just forged like a different version of myself, honestly. So it's like I see things differently. Like my perspective. I feel like I was able to really kind of expand, my life with these kind of challenges. I heard this sort of analogy recently. Actually, Tina Turner's book. Have you read it?
Not yet.
Dude.
I haven't even seen her doc yet.
Oh man, it's so good, man. Like the way she breaks things down and explains things. Like, yeah, I had no idea I had so much in common with Tina Turner.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you both do really have nice legs. That's for
thanks,
sure.
man. Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, man.
Well, let me do this, man. I'm gonna introduce you, and we can get going with this dialogue that we started
Cool.
here. So yes. Welcome back, people of Pieces of Nation. Thank you so much for coming back again. This is the podcast that makes you feel stuff. My name is Richard Chu. Please follow us on Instagram at Pieces of a Nation. Today, I'd like to introduce a special guest. He's a really cool guy. He likes to sing. He likes to fly, not just because of his name, but he is a rapper, musician, artist. He is an activist and an entrepreneur. This is my really good friend, Falcon Sang.
Hey,
how you doing?
And a tree. I'm also a tree.
He's a tree. He's a bodhisattva tree. He's a tree of money. He's a tree of life. He's a tree of goodness with so much non-strife. I'm just rapping for you, man, because you're the much better rapper than I am.
Hashtag bars.
BAR. Candy bars?
Candy bars.
Dude, so I mean, just for the listeners, Falcon and I did an interview a couple years ago, and the interview was so dated. We talked about the Joker trailer. We talked about his first album. Well, not his first album. I think it was his second or third album. And some other things that I don't remember. And we just decided to do an updated interview, man. A little dialogue. So just to follow up on what's happening, man. So as we left off, we were talking about COVID. We're talking about the pandemic. We're talking about growth. We're talking about everything, that we've been going through. So give me and the listeners a little idea of the past year, what you've been working on, how you've been surviving, and all that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so, it almost feels like a different world since we did that first interview, I think was like at the end of 2019 or something, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, man, I've always loved the Pieces of a Nation like everything that you're doing with it, man. Like all the interviews and dialogues, like so important.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, man. Thanks for thinking of me and doing this with me again. So yeah, this past year, I was really determined to, when we went into the pandemic, I don't know if you remember, but there was like this announcement that it would be like a 2-week lockdown, you know?
I do.
So, yeah. So they're like, oh, cool, 2 weeks, like kind of a vacation at home. And, here we are, whatever, like 14 months later, something like this. So, there came a point in the pandemic where I was just really determined to kind of like grow as much as I could, because I really realized that, like, man, pre-pandemic, it was so easy for me to kind of, in those moments where I wasn't feeling well, right? Do a thing, and go to the movies or go to the mall or go hang out with people or, even
Escape.
going to work. Yeah. Yeah. Even going to work, man, in a lot of ways could be like that escape, like you said. And, yeah, the pandemic took that opportunity away, which actually was, in one sense, the greatest opportunity, from one perspective, just because, like, there's no room for me to make excuses any longer. Because it's just me. And, like, how much can I reflect and how much can I grow, So, yeah, man. And, of course, like, I don't mean to make light of the pandemic. Like, I have many friends who have become sick and have lost family members, and the situation, I feel, is very serious, and so yeah, I feel fortunate to have a philosophy that I practice that helps keep me grounded. And the people who founded this philosophy and this practice have gone through similar things, wars and epidemics, 13th century Japan, 700 years ago, so I feel like
the practice, yeah, the practice that they're pertaining to Nichiren Buddhism, it's something we both practice. And in this practice, we have the support in the community. Not saying that there's no supportive community in any other like practice or religion, but it's slightly a little different from my perspective. But kind of going back on what you were saying in terms of escapism, I mean, I'm sure we've all done this. We've escaped. As soon as the pandemic hit, we're trying finding other ways to escape. Like binge watching all 10 seasons of Friends, or or stuff like that. What types of things kept you going, and how did you come out of the sort of anxiety? Because I know everyone was going through it. How did you personally get yourself out of the anxiety, and do you relapse? And and obviously, what other things have you been doing to keep you moving forward?
Yeah, I think that's great, man. So, off top, this practice that you mentioned of Nichiren Buddhism as a foundation, and I built everything else on top of that. The reason that that's my foundation is because I really learned through this practice how to behave in a manner that respects the dignity of my life and the dignity of all life in my environment. So having said that, man, like, I started to realize that I need to use every resource available to me, and so, like, I think it changed and evolved throughout the pandemic, but definitely that anxiety, because it's a part of me, is still there, in a major way. But I think the difference now, in regards to this anxiety, I think, like, it's no longer, most days, it's no longer the motivating function of my life. It's not like the thing that's driving me any longer. you know.
What do you mean by that?
So like, you know, I think it's easy as people to kind of hang ourselves on like extremes, you know. For example, like either I feel good or bad, you know, or feel anxious or I don't feel anxious, or I'm depressed or I'm not depressed, you know. But something that I personally learned during the pandemic,
To be or not to be,
to be or not to be. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but something that I learned during the pandemic, man, is that there is all these different shades in between, all these different shades of possibility, you know. So everything isn't just as black and white or extreme as maybe I used to feel that it was, you know. So I'm learning that I can still feel anxiety, I can still experience depression, you know, but it's sort of like I've been able to work on it in a way where it comes up in like a lesser form now, you know. And rather than it being the driving force kind of my life, I feel that it's more so a piece of me, you know. Like, for example, if I have like a pain in my arm, right? And if that pain becomes sort of my motivating function throughout the day, and that's the thing that I'm focusing on, I'll probably become irritated and frustrated. And I go out to the store and, you know, I'm like not really interacting well with others, right? But if I can just for myself kind of realize like this is just a piece of me, you know, this is a pain on my arm, it doesn't mean that, you know, my life is whatever, broken or something like that, you know. So I think it's just like kind of comes back to like, what am I devoting my life to? You know, do I really have a sense of like, what is the purpose of my life? Like, these are the questions I feel that I've been able to confront because of this, you know, unique circumstance of, you know, this crazy COVID pandemic, you know. And,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
purpose is essential, especially when the veil is put in front of you, in a way, right? Because the pandemic has caused sort of this darkness, these clouds, if you will, to come over us, and sometimes in those moments we can easily drop into the bucket of fear. You know, it becomes a massive obstacle. The other day I was thinking about fears and certain fears in my life, and I was asking myself, why am I fearing this stuff? And then it dawned on me that obstacles are just a part of life. So there's no point in fearing them. And why waste our energy on this? Why not spend the energy to create solutions for ourselves? That's not saying that we shouldn't be paying attention to what's happening in the world. It's not saying we shouldn't be disregarding or ignoring other people's pain. Of course not. We're human beings. Compassion is the connection to each other's hearts, and this is how we really build a strong community and really strive to understand each other. Right? In this situation for you, how have you strived to really connect with other people in your life and people that you don't know? How do you connect with those people?
Yeah, man. Oh, that's a great question. Actually, I think in this past 1 year, I think many of us have had the same experience, but I think I've connected with more people in this past 1 year than maybe my whole life, man, you know, because of this circumstance, you know. My mentor says that obstacles are to be relished, you know. And so I was really thinking, like, do I really like appreciate when obstacles arise? Do I really see that as like, do I take responsibility and not guilt, right? Like, some people when they hear like take responsibility might feel like the same thing as like guilt, right? Like it's your fault or something like that. But I think I've come to learn that like taking responsibility is more so like being on top of the pressure rather than the pressure being on top of you, you know? So yeah, man. I think like can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah, I noticed you drifted a little bit in the whole world for a second there, and I was waiting for you to come back. But here's the question, man. Here's the question. Good points, by the way. You know, being on top of certain things, because that sort of stacks up. So I'm going to compound interest that statement that you just made, right? In terms of with all the pressures and things that are stacking up in your life, how are you taking all that and relating that to other people so that you can have some sort of connection with those people in order to really just, you know, realize that we're all here together. I mean, there's that hashtag alone but together, or separate but together. I forget what it is, man. But how do you connect to those people in your life and the people in your community, and break through all this, man? How do you get yourself up during the days? You know, all those questions.
Yeah. So
together.
like in regards to like connecting with others, man, like I really kind of started to use, I did a couple of things, man, like especially last year, like after the murder of George Floyd, like that really, man, was a moment for me where I was like, it's time to start talking. We gotta dialogue about this. We gotta change some shit, you know? And so, yeah, what I started doing, man, was just like, I used social media a lot, you know, to reconnect with people who maybe in my heart I had put a distance between for whatever reason, one reason or another, you know. Phone calls, man, I just started calling people. I stopped caring if it was weird, you know, like there often comes this point, like if you haven't spoken with a friend for a long time, and then there kind of maybe comes a point where, at least for me, where it's like, oh, it's been so long. Like, is it weird if I call them now? And then you just wait longer, and then it gets weirder the longer, you know? And so I just kind of stopped giving a shit about that personally. And I was like, I don't care if this person thinks it's weird, because what matters most is, why am I calling? What's my intention, you know? And so that was kind of how I started approaching, you know, conversations. And you know, there are a number of people in my environment who disagree with many of my perspectives, politically, socially, and otherwise, you know? And I stopped avoiding those conversations and also stopped trying to win those debates. And I just kind of realized, like, man, the reason that people are behaving the way they're behaving, you know, just generally, is because of how they feel. Like they feel a certain way about whatever, and it's motivating them to act, you know. So rather than debating these kind of external things, I really felt like the best thing that I can do in supporting other people, supporting my environment, is to get right to the heart of whatever it is, you know. Even if I disagree, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, it doesn't matter if we disagree. What matters is if we can still unite, you know. So I started kind of approaching these conversations like that, man. And yeah, I had many difficult conversations in this past year, you know. Many of them were surrounding the social unrest and, you know, differences in political perspectives and things like this. But I just found that the more that I could bring it back to, again, like the purpose of why I'm reaching this person, you know, I decided that I wanted to be like a positive function in my environment, you know. And in order to do that, I gotta be solid, you know, to a certain degree. Like I gotta make sure that like I myself am standing on two solid feet with the conviction that, you know, like even if an interaction with someone doesn't go my way, whether it's a friend or family or a loose acquaintance, you know, does that shake my belief that like connecting with others is the best thing to do, or can I still continue to do that even when things seemingly don't go my way, you know?
Right.
So yeah, man, I really used social media, and I was just paying attention as much as I could. Whenever a friend would post something, that I would scroll across, and it was like, you know, man, I saw many posts from friends who had just kind of lost hope, you know? And I felt like, well, I'm also losing hope. So if I'm over here by myself losing hope, and this guy's over there by himself losing hope, and we see each other and not doing anything, like, what's the point? You know, what's the point?
Do you feel? Do you feel like? I don't want to say your generation, because I mean we're all in the same, pretty much same generation, but to use the term like loosely in a way. But do you feel, you know, the generation you're speaking to has been some sort of apathetic towards certain, and like, you know, for instance, you know, you were talking about the whole George Floyd, you know, issue that happened, and you know, obviously now we have the Asian hate, the BIPOC, you know, all these issues are starting to rise up. Do you feel the people you have surrounded yourself with have been apathetic in the past, and you know, and if that is the case, what are the types of things, you know, what are the types of things that that you've been looking at, you know, I guess what I'm trying to say here is, because this is a really sensitive subject to a lot of people, and I don't want to be as blunt as I usually am, right? But really the biggest question is apathy. That's the real big point that I want to get to. Do you feel like people are starting to be more concerned and less apathetic, or are they still trying to be apathetic? Not trying to be apathetic, still apathetic, and not really caring about what's happening in a way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I'll answer it from a couple different ways, because I think this is a big question. It's a good question too, man. Like, from my perspective, you know, just personally, the people that I have done my best to surround myself with have actually been the opposite of apathetic. They've been the ones, you know, like in 2013 when Black Lives Matter first, you know, began in LA. I was out there, you know, marching with them at the protests, and, you know, became friends with organizers, social justice organizers, and performed at some shows, you know, in which social justice issues were a big part, you know. And so because I've been around these people and in this sphere in the past, you know, I've not seen apathy, you know. On the other hand, this group, you know, or these groups that I'd been a part of before are not everyone, you know. And so, yeah, it's interesting, the question, you know, because I think that I feel that the apathy that you're referring to, in which, you know, there are now people who I think are paying attention to things that before they maybe felt had nothing to do with them. Does that make sense? Like, I feel that apathy came from this ignorance of like, oh, what happens to the Black community, that's them. Has nothing to do with me. You know, Asian Americans, that's them. You know, them. Right? And I feel that apathy came from that ignorance. Straight up, man. You know. And I feel that the pandemic largely has shown us that a lot of these perspectives of disconnection, of like, I'm living my life and that person's living theirs and we have nothing to do with each other. I think the pandemic, I hope, has really shown us that that perspective is bullshit. You know, because there's nothing that can happen that's not connect. You know, this may be a bit off topic, but you know, in like the biology world, right? There's like this debate about what is considered an ecosystem. You know, because the idea of like an ecosystem is meant to kind of isolate, right? Like the water gets evaporated and then creates clouds,
right,
which give rain, and right?
right.
And so you can kind of create a system. But, you know, there are other things that contribute to any ecosystem. So there's like this debate in the biology world that there is no one true ecosystem. Because even if we're just talking about plants and photosynthesis, then you got to take into consideration the gravity of the planet. Got to take into consideration the size of the planet, which is related to the gravity, the tilt, you know, how far away we are from the sun, you know, the human's impact on the soil. Like, you know, I really hope that this pandemic, in regards to this point of apathy, I hope that it has created this lasting impression that, hey, we're all fucking connected. Sorry, can I say the F word? My bad.
You can say anything you want.
Okay. You know, we're all connected, and yeah, anyone who was operating under that impression before that they can do anything without affecting others, you know, I hope that perspective has been challenged. You know.
Well, I think the biggest thing with apathy is the segregation, right? People, it's device. It's people are divided, right? And the biggest thing about this pandemic is it's in a way cracked those glass windows and help people realize, oh, we're not actually as divided as we think we are. You know, the ironic thing about this, we're doing this interview on Zoom, and this is through glass. This is the glass window here, right? And there's so many levels of shifts and dynamics going on where when the pandemic hit, we all of a sudden we were isolated. But we use technology like Zoom to reach out together, right? So we felt a lot more connected, but isolated at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So there's this ongoing feeling of isolation, and I feel like the dividedness is always going to come down to feeling isolated. Which is why like during these times that I feel the more active we can be, the more causes that we can make in our lives, the more we can connect to other people. Slowly but surely, we can be able to feel that connection with other people and be able to not feel as divided as you know, it's unnecessary dividedness, right? And we all know this, man. The media, some of the media at least, you know, depicts certain situations and certain people, and bam, automatically puts this, you know, gerrymandering line, right? This red line, this red tape, and it automatically causes this division. That's what I feel like, you know, by the end of this thing, hopefully, we are able to look at this whole situation and go, let's take a deep breath. Let's start over. It's a major restart, essentially. And why not restart it from not just ground zero, but download good information and modernize the way we're thinking, which is moving forward and realizing that all humanity is the same. We're all equal, right? And and have the ability to really be kind to each other, really support each other, no matter who they are, and have that ability to just, have empathy and compassion, all these things put together, man. I feel like that's the most important thing that we need to realize coming out of this thing.
Yeah, man. I think you make a good point too, because I like the way you said, like, the pandemic like cracked open, because, man, all this stuff existed before, and in regards to, like Black Lives Matter and the Black community in America, like, man, I used to get asked, like, around 2013, 2014, like, why I was so, when I would go to these rallies, man, it wasn't a whole lot of people that looked like me, and to be honest, it was, I had to kind of battle with this feeling of like, do I even belong here? It feels like I'm standing up for something good right now, but like, maybe I'm inserting myself where I don't belong. That was how I felt, but, and I would get asked, like, people would make comments to me like, I don't know why you're so kind of like gung-ho about their cause, and it was always very confusing to me in so many ways. My own self-identity, things like this. But how I feel now is that, nah, man, like, the issues that Black Americans have faced for generations, I don't think that that's just an issue that, like, Black people need to solve. As an American, I feel, again, this word responsibility, right? To, like what you said, like, make my own causes to support this equality, and if you look back at, like, footage after the Rodney King tape came out in the 90s, right? And you watch, like, newsreels, like, man, there are so many interviews in which Black people are saying, like, look, this stuff's been going on for a very long time, and now it's on tape. Now you guys can see what we've been talking about. And look at where we're at. 30 whatever years later. Actually 30 years almost exactly to the year, still having Black people disproportionately killed in the country by cops, And so this kind of stuff, man, is like, what is it really going to take? Videotape wasn't the thing. It wasn't the thing that exposed it. There needed to be something bigger, a bigger shift, a bigger foundational shake, and in a lot of ways, I feel that COVID provided us that opportunity to be like, hey, this stuff is serious, I don't think it's any coincidence, man, that the pandemic started and just months later, George Floyd was murdered in such a brutal way. And everyone was at home in front of their screens witnessing this happen. It's almost as if the universe was like, okay, 30 years ago, this didn't work. And actually, oh, you're frozen. Can you hear me? Did I lose you, Richard? Hello?
All right. This is the thing about Zoom, folks.
Okay, we back?
Yeah, we're back. We're back,
okay,
man.
Where did you lose me?
I lost you on as soon as the pandemic happened, it's no coincidence that the George Floyd incident happened.
Yeah, because, there's this line of thinking about, I've heard my mentor talk about the 30-year period, like a 30-year cycle, specifically in America, right? So, like, the 1960s was the civil rights movement. 30 years later, Rodney King. 30 years later, George Floyd. It's almost as if the universe keeps trying to show us there's this issue, fix it, or in 2050 we're gonna have to deal with this again, you know. And,
right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah,
and
man.
not to diminish.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, no. What I was going to say, right. You know, racism is abnormal, right? It's extremely abnormal. I grew up in Toronto. We didn't really have this in Toronto, but I've also, visited many other countries, and it's slightly a little different in terms of like racism. Of course, you're going to get a certain level of racism. There's always going to be a certain level of racism in all countries, right? But the extreme level of racism in America is mind blowing. It's so mind blowing, like to the point of
Wow.
of death, right? I mean, come on. I mean, yes, there's you can divide yourself, and like the Cultural Revolution. I'm studying the Cultural Revolution in China right now, right? And that was a massive divide. It was a divide to, have a whole new generation think a certain way under the control of their leader at the time, Mao Zedong, right? And it was, I mean, to put it really bluntly, it was sort of brainwashing. I might get a lot of crap for this, but it was definitely brainwashing, right? To think a certain way. But people were treated, shamed. People were shamed, public shamed. People were people painted, signs on people's doors and put it on their front doors, indicating that these people were against the new leadership and they should be looked down upon, right?
Man.
Like certain things like that, right? And those type of situations are nothing compared to racism in America, right? When you have a whole society against another society, right? And then you have another society, and you have many different societies, right? But you have one society against another society, against another society, against another society. And it just becomes this tense environment where we feel like that we can't, gosh, man, it gets just so tense, man. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to add to that, but it's just, it blows my mind. You were mentioning before about like belonging, right? And I think that's a big point is feeling belong, because when you feel segregated and divided, you don't feel like you belong anywhere. And that's a tough thing. Like how is that something that how are you dealing with that now today, moving forward?
Yeah, man, to put it very simply and very directly, the way I feel now is that if there are people there, there's no reason why I don't belong.
Yeah.
To just, I feel it just boils down to that sentiment. Like, I used to get so worried about how I sound and how I dress and how I would ever present myself to all these different diverse groups of people that I would interact with, and yeah, I feel that used to be my greatest point of suffering, because it created loneliness and anxiety and, lack of confidence, lack of self-esteem, lack of self-worth, like this feeling that there is no community that I can kind of sink my roots into. No one's got my back. That feeling, But now I feel that my greatest suffering is now my greatest strength, because I have been able to transform it in a way that it no longer feels, I no longer feel isolated, you know? No matter how different another person is than me. Oh, did I lose you again?
No, I'm right here. You're good.
Okay. Here we go. There was a lag. I feel that no matter how different another person is than me, they're a living thing on this planet. And more than that, they're another human being. So there's no reason why I can't dialogue with them, no matter how different we are, you know, no matter the things that we maybe drastically disagree about. If you're another person, in a lot of ways, as Michael Jackson once said, you're just another part of me, you know? And I really feel that now.
And I mean, The Man in the Mirror, it's a perfect example of a great song. I mean, it's reflecting on yourself, looking at yourself, and really just kind of figuring out who you are, because you are a reflection of society, and society is a reflection of who you are. And in order for us to change, we have to change internally, right? And then it ripples out, right?
Yeah, that's right.
What's the biggest struggle that you've gone through so far, and how are you overcoming it?
Just like in life in general, or like specifically during the pandemic? What do you think?
Anything you want to bring up.
Yeah, man. Well, it's hard for me to kind of put a first place winner of all the struggles that, you know, have occurred throughout my life.
Hey, don't worry about it. You have second place and third place, so it's okay. There's three things that you can bring up if you want.
You know, man, mental health has been a big one. You know, I started getting therapy last year, you know, which I've been very open about. Because, yeah, I think maybe right now this is the one that I can really speak to the most, because it's the one that I feel like the most kind of in the middle of, you know? But man, I've learned so much, you know, about my mental health, and, you know, won't share too many details, but I received some diagnoses, you know, in regards to my mental health. And, you know, I know that a lot of times this can feel like a box that you're placed in. You have XYZ, so you're an XYZ kind of person. But for me, the way that I've seen it, you know, again, because of this foundation that I've been working on in my life, man, the way that I see mental health now is like they teach us how to do everything when we're little. You know, how to walk, how to speak properly, maybe different languages if there are different languages in the home. You know, maybe how to clean, how to cook for yourself, how to safely, whatever. But the training that nobody, I feel, ever gets is what to do about what happens internally. You know, what do I do with these emotions that I feel that, you know, make me want to do certain things? You know, one thing that I've really challenged for much of my life is like extreme anger, you know, like violence just in my own heart. And so, man, like using a tool like therapy has really, more than anything, helped me learn about what's going on, you know, internally. And I feel like it's almost like the reason I am doing therapy, it's kind of like I'm learning how to walk emotionally, you know? And, and yeah, man, you know,
Yeah,
been,
that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. Therapy is, you know, some of the best. I love therapy. I've gone to maybe 5 years of therapy. Missy and I have done like about a year or so of therapy together. And, you know, as one of my friends says it, therapy massages the brain. And I completely agree with that. And
yeah,
right,
man.
it totally. It totally relaxes you, man. It's the greatest thing. But we're gonna have to share therapists, man. I want to know who you're going because I'm looking for a new therapist right now.
You know what? You know what's funny, man, is like I think maybe this helped ease me into therapy a little bit, but right before I started getting like seeing a therapist, I actually got physical therapy. Because of some like other health issues and muscle stuff that I have going on in my neck and my back. And wow, I sound like an old man. My neck and my back hurts. But
You're an old fart, man. You got an American flag bandana. You know, you're wearing deflection glasses.
Oh man, life. Anyway, but no, man. Like I really feel like I've learned that youthfulness comes from inside, man. Like
so you're 27.
I think that helps.
Shut up. You're 27, dude.
I'm be 30 this year, bro. It's been a long pandemic.
Really?
I'm gonna be 30. Yeah.
Okay.
But no. Anyway, man. I think like growing up in the kind of circumstances that I did, where it was like, there's a lot of violence and gangs and there was kind of this macho attitude of like, whatever. Man, therapy was never something that I ever wanted to even consider. Because I was like, from my perspective, therapy was for people who needed it. Therapy was for like, whatever. And so, I think really kind of reflecting on my own arrogance, number one, but something else that really helped ease me into seeing a therapist was I had to get physical therapy right before that. And I learned things about, my body and how I use muscles that I wish I had known when I was, much younger. And I was like, wow, I actually am strong in certain ways that I didn't realize and weak in other ways that I thought I was strong. I found it fascinating. And so, it helped with a lot of the pain that I deal with, whatever. And then, and so, that experience was really wonderful. And I was able to identify things that were wrong and correct them just through physical therapy. No pills, no injections, nothing like that. Just my own awareness of my body, And so when I started seeing a therapist, I was like, oh, it's like what you said. It's the same thing just for my brain now, my emotions. I'm becoming more aware of how to use emotions. And man, it's made me more creative. It's made me physically stronger. Like all these things have just been able to improve. And I really feel that it started by kind of like lowering that banner of arrogance that I had,
Yeah, therapy does that. Therapy makes you, you have a bouncing board. You have somebody to talk to. And that person is trained to have you reflect on yourself. Not necessarily giving you advice because that's not really what they're there for, but essentially it's to really, rub out those knots in your brain, right? It's like a massage therapist in a way. Yeah, I love therapy, man. It's been a while since I've been to therapy. But I think, therapy is not for everybody. But I feel like people that are extremely creative need therapy a lot more. Everyone's really creative, but I feel like a lot of the creatives, need therapy a lot because there's a lot of things that are jumbled up in the brain, and we have to see those clearly in order to express ourselves, right?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And it's almost like artists are kind of like if we're students or professionals at anything, I feel that artists, that thing would be emotions. So it's like, yeah, I think what you're saying is spot on,
Yeah, man. Well, dude, I know you love freestyle rapping, so I'm going to have you do some freestyle rapping right now on everything that we talked about. And I'm just going to let you go, do your thing. And let's hear some good stuff, man.
Yeah, sure. All right. Yo, I just can't get rest. COVID got me woke. Still don't feel my best, but I won't surrender hope. Everybody's so concerned with trying to be the GOAT. Meanwhile, I'ma take my place and sit on top my throne. See, I'm a king, I'm a god, I don't need no validation. I'm the hero and the villain and the joker of this nation. I'm gonna just stop right there because I had some other stuff that came to mind, but maybe for part 2.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man, that was great. Thank you. What would have really been great for that last line if you said if you would no joke for the pieces of nation.
Oh, do you want me to redo it?
No. It's all on here, man. We got proof. Dude, that was great, man. I love it.
You may never know me, but I know you feel this tension. Didn't nobody choose us for me. I made a decision. Last year, 2020, helped me straighten out my vision. I ain't scared to die no more, just focused on my mission.
Ooh, mic drop. Virtual mic drop. Badass, man. Dude, that was awesome, man. That was awesome. I love that. I love when you freestyle. It blows my mind. It blows my mind when people freestyle like that, and especially when they just go really fast, right? And it blows my mind. So, but thank you for that. You can always tell somebody's frame of thinking when they freestyle really fast, right? Dude, this has been a really great dialogue, and I want to be able to express like my feelings towards what's happening in India right now, because I know your wife has family in India, so I just want to throw out some good vibes there. Hope that she's okay, her family's okay, and
thanks, man.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on over there. Second wave, apparently. So, not apparently, but that's what's happening right now. So, I just want to throw that out there. What's your social, man? So people can reach out to you. I know we didn't get a chance to talk about your music, but I think what we talked about today is more important.
Yes.
And of the time, right? So, but what's your social? So people can reach out to you if they, like to chit chat with you, talk to you, maybe buy you a new bandana, man.
Yeah. Yes. So, my name is Falcon. I wear exclusively American flag bandanas, which, maybe you can message me and ask me why. It's a very specific reason. And, my Instagram is @thefalconator. Yes, it's as cheesy as it sounds. You could catch me on the Bars app, which is just @Falcon. And that's pretty much all I use, one more is TikTok. And TikTok is Awesome Sound Kings with the Z.
Sweet deal, man. Sweet deal. All right, Falcon, man. Thank you so much for your time, dude. Good luck with everything. I'll talk to you real soon. But yeah, man, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you so much, man. And please keep doing Pieces of a Nation. We need dialogue right now. So thank you for doing this.
Appreciate you, man. All right, dude. I'll talk to you real soon.
Thanks.